Hey mama, if you're listening to this, you might be carrying a secret that feels too heavy to speak out loud. You look like you got it all together, you serve at church, maybe you even lead a Bible study. You smile when you drop off the kids, but no one sees the other side of you, the one that comes out behind closed doors. At home, you are a completely different person. You yell, you explode, you scream at your kids, sometimes in their face. You tell them to shut up. You grab them too harshly. You throw things across the room. You smack them in anger, twist their ears, spank them in rage, and immediately after, you are hit with a tidal wave of shame. You cry alone in your room and you whisper, "God, what is wrong with me?" You feel scared and disgusted by your own reactions. You're terrified that someone might find out. You wonder if your kids would be better off without you. You feel unworthy, broken, and too far gone to be redeemed. You try to fix this on your own. You listen to podcasts, parenting books, download freebies, but nothing changes. You keep falling back into the same patterns, and it feels like you are stuck in a cycle that you can't break. You don't trust yourself anymore, and if you're honest, you are afraid of who you become. But here's the truth, Mama. You are not beyond hope. You're not alone, and with God's help and the right support, you can change. I'm Elizabeth, a mom of 4 and an anger management coach for Christian moms. And inside my Calm Christian Mom coaching program, I guide women just like you through a powerful transformation. This isn't shallow behavior management. We go deep. We address your triggers, your stress, your mindset, your nervous system, and the spiritual root behind your patterns. We invite God into every layer and walk hand in hand towards healing. In just 12 weeks, you can become a completely different mom, unrecognizable. One who leads with patience, not panic. One whose children feel emotionally safe around her. One who cultivates peace. This summer, I'm offering a Calm Mama strategy session, a powerful 15-minute one-on-one coaching session designed to help you uncover the root of your anger and receive spiritual, emotional, and practical support. It's your chance to experience what coaching is like with me before diving deeper into ongoing support. If we both feel like the full program is the next right step, we can talk about what that looks like for you. You don't have to keep living like this. Your family is worth healing, and so are you. Use the link in the show notes to book the Calm Mama strategy session. Hi, beautiful friend. Today you are in for a treat. I invited my friend Susie, and she specializes in helping women feel good, especially those who struggle with people pleasing. She also is a host of a podcast called Love Your Life Show, and I've been on her podcast, and now she came as a guest on my show. She's a certified parent, life, and wellness coach. And if you are struggling with being a people pleaser and putting your own needs on the side and just doing what others want you to do just so you feel better because it's so uncomfortable to say no and set boundaries, this conversation is for you, and you are going to find so much value out of our conversation. I'm so excited for you to introduce Susie, and let's get started. Hi, Susie. I am so excited for us to have this conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Elizabeth. I am thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Okay, so we are first going to do an icebreaker, and then we will get into our conversation. So what is something that you've been loving lately?
I have been loving puzzles. I've always loved puzzles, and my kids are now older. So I went through a period where I couldn't do puzzles, or I chose not to do puzzles, and now my youngest is now 18. So I get to have a puzzle out, and I love, like, it is my downtime. to sit and do a puzzle with a podcast like yours in my ear. So I'm just listening to like inspiring, cheerful Elizabeth or people like you. And then I'm just doing my podcast, doing my puzzle. So happy. It's like my happy place. I'm loving it.
That's awesome. I feel like I go into phases. I just need to get it out and start it. And then I'm totally into it. I actually enjoy doing puzzles too. It's like super decompressing to me. It's just like super like relaxing. And I remember I went on a women's retreat in Minnesota. There was this house that you could, it's like donation space, but you can literally get away there, like, by yourself, away from your kids, and they cook for you, and then you have a room, and then you just donate how much ever you want at the end. And like, I went there for a couple of days and I literally just journaled and read and I did puzzles and listened to music, like completely decompressed. It was so awesome and amazing. Yes.
Yeah. It really, it fills me up. It is very grounding. I love it.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, who are you and who do you help?
Okay. Well, I am Susie Pettit. I think you already did that in the intro. In a nutshell, I am a life and a parent coach that helps moms learn how to hack their brain so they feel more in control of their days. I have my background in education and mindfulness, and I put out a podcast every week, the Love Your Life Show, with specific tools to help women live their lives. So that is me, helping women feel better in their everyday lives.
Thank you. And let's get into like your story. How did you get where you are today? Because I know, like, for me, I did not get here overnight. Being a podcaster and being in a position to be able to give to others and teach others, on my own journey, I went through like years of struggles and just kind of, lots of hard times and just lots of tears and emotions. And then now I am today, and, and everybody that I believe is like in a place where they support others, right? And teach others and mentor them. Oftentimes they went through a story themselves. So what is your story?
Oh, for sure. And I will say, sort of backing up to the question you just asked before, I'm 51 now. And I am part of a blended family. I have 5 sons. My biological boys are 18, 20, and 23. I think I got that right. And then I'm my second marriage, married to a man who has 2 sons they're my bonus sons, 21 and 25. So that is part of when I answer your question of how I got to where I am today. I think it is helpful for listeners to know that I am a mom. I have experience with these kids. And one of the ways I got to where I am today, living a life that I love as a thriving mother of these boys who I am so proud of, is that I lived a life for many years that I did not love. I spent probably more than the first part of my life, half of my life, doing the opposite. I grew up, really, as many of us do, seeking love and connection and just craving attention from my parents. And my parents, while they were doing the best they could, they didn't have a podcast like yours. It was a different time. And so they were not aware of, emotional intelligence. And I did a lot of people pleasing and trying to be the good girl, just really seeking their love and acceptance, learning from an early age that, like, I was broken is sort of the message I was given, and that Susie needed to listen to, my dad specifically, to how things could be done, like decisions or, and anything like that. If I needed to look outside of myself to see whether I was making good or bad decisions. And so I went into college, continuing to look externally to see what was right or wrong. I married a man who was very much raised in a similar household. I spent my 20s and 30s doing what I thought I should be doing. It's almost like I was following a manual for like the good girl, and I did what I thought I should be doing as a woman, as a mom, looking outside of myself, really trying to shove down that inner voice that was telling me what was going on. Like, if I did this, then I'd be happy. And through a couple different really big events, one of them losing a friend my same age at the time. We were sort of living parallel lives with young kids and getting together every week at playgroup and complaining and then going out and doing it again. She died from colon cancer. It was definitely a wake-up call to me that, like, wait a minute, like, what is going on? Like, do you want to continue to live your life based on what other people think is right? Or might you want, to listen to that inner voice in there? I had that sort of led to that initial, I call it a midlife awakening, like a wake-up call. It led then to me speaking up more and not being such a people pleaser. It also led to my whole physical system pretty much broke down. I had 32 seizures in a weekend. I was just having such external stress that I was carrying internally. And that led me into taking some big dramatic actions and learning about the brain and learning about what I was doing and getting into life coaching that helped me really transform my life so that now I am helping women live lives they love and dropping that people pleasing.
Wow.
That's
that's a lot. That's a lot. I can't even imagine losing like a close friend like that. And just that would definitely, shake you up and just help, like, in a good way to like question like about your life and the choices and decisions. Because oftentimes I feel like we're just doing the mundane stuff, right? Like we're just pushing through the days. And I know so many people in my circle, they just like do the mundane and they just push through, and like life just passes by and like they don't enjoy it. They don't enjoy their life at all. And it's not a pleasant place to be. Like, I still have hardships. I still go through like ups and downs, but like overall, I love my life. I love my life. I love who I am. I love the person I've become, and like how like I radiate, to others and help others. Like I'm thankful to God to where I am today. Like I am truly grateful, and like I wouldn't say my life is miserable. Not at all. Not at all. Even with the hard things that I'm going through at the
for sure. Well, we're always going to have hard. And I love you reflecting on that, because that is what I felt like. I felt like I was like on a treadmill that like someone else had set, and it was like, you're going in this, like you'll go to this school, you'll get this husband, you'll get the kids, the picket fence, and I was just like looking down. I wasn't even like looking up, it's like just looking down. And then my friend's death, while absolutely catastrophic for sure, it definitely was a gift. I mean, the drama of cancer is miserable, but the benefit of it is that it wasn't just a one day, it was a more drawn out. So I mean, she said to me, Susie, take this, like, wake up, take this as your wake up call, like go live the life we both want to be living. Like, I get goosebumps thinking of that. I mean, it really is this, like, get off the friggin' treadmill, like, or choose your own treadmill, and that's a lot. I mean, it was just a very big wake up call. And I don't want to skate over that's not an easy, for any listeners that might feel that they're sort of doing something similar, that they've been, living a life that their mom thinks is right for them, or their husband thinks is right for them, or their, siblings think are right, or that, they thought, we don't know, I was just this innocent, I'm trying to do the best I can. And I'm like, okay, let's, do what, it's no fault, but to try to take any little step along there to get back into your inner knowing, that inner, like, why are we here? I do believe we are all unique, that God does not make duplicates. And so when we're trying to sort of be like the other little robotic people out there, as I was trying to do, I'm not shining my light out in the way that I was made. And
you get to live only one life. Like, think about it. You get to live only once. And like, I think if I was in your position and I lost a friend, like, the question for me would be like, well, what if this would happen to me? Like, what impact did I leave on my family, on my friends, on like my life? Like, what imprint did it leave? Like, am I just scrolling through my days, scrolling on my phone, trying to escape reality, just like pushing through, constantly being pissed off at everybody, in a bad mood? Like,
and like, and what if in a year I die? Like, what is truly important? Like, what are you going to do differently? Like, those are some like big, deep questions that I think like many of us just don't even think about on a regular basis. We just like,
Well, we
push
feel
through.
invincible. We very much, and it is, it is very helpful to know that like that there's nothing wrong with us. Like we really like that brain that we have up until age 25 doesn't think too far in the future. That's why you get kids doing dumb things, because they aren't like, oh, what would this be like when I, and then a lot of us don't sort of mature out of it, where we're still just looking like almost straight down at the treadmill, not like up and out at what's happening. And that's okay until we do sort of have this wake up, and it is this, there's so many different stories in the Bible, in literature, like answer the call, like when you get the nudge, when you get answer the call, get that nudge, look up, wake up, like start to live the life that you're here for. And one of the top regrets of the dying, it's actually an Australian hospice nurse wrote a very famous book called The 5 Top Regrets of the Dying. And one of them is that people, when they get to the end of their life, they regret not living a life more in alignment with their values, which is essentially what we're talking about, like living a life for yourself that maybe some circles would look at as selfish, but I look at it as soulfish, and that is like we're clicking into our soul and what we're here for, like what is your unique light. And yes, you're still going to have dark days and light days, yet with that, it feels just so much freer. I feel so much more peaceful now that I'm not trying to be something that I'm not, which just helps tremendously. In, yes, life still has ups and downs and roller coasters. But like people pleasing is you're lying to people. And so it like, I always sort of carried this like tenseness almost, even with my husband, of like, what if he finds out that I actually don't enjoy playing in the sandbox for 4 hours? Like, what if?
Yeah. And speaking of that, let's talk about like specifically how would you describe a person who's a people pleaser? Because I think that term goes around a lot, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know that when I first started going to therapy, my therapist gave me a book to read, Codependent No More. And she's like, you are codependent. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what is codependent? And so let's talk about what is a people pleaser. Like, describe that person so people kind of know what is a people pleaser.
Yeah. And I love that your therapist gave you that book, because people pleasing and codependency is all sort of meshed together and that's why I also love your podcast and the name of your podcast, with this emotional, legacy that we're leaving kids. Because the codependency is thinking that we can control other people's thoughts and feelings, and we feel this responsibility for that. Whereas, when you're teaching what you're teaching, and we understand that it's not, like Elizabeth saying something to someone else that makes them feel a certain way, it's their thoughts that make them feel a certain way, that can be freeing. So people pleasing, first of all, like I imagine there are a lot of people that would feel that they have people pleasing tendencies, and that's okay. Of course you do. Like, that's where I always like to come from, a place of compassion. Like, of course you do. We were raised this way. And in many ways we needed to be people pleasers as our little, 10-year-old and under selves to fit into our family. So people pleasing is essentially prioritizing pleasing other people over ourselves. It's a grown-up version of what I was doing as a child, seeking approval and validation outside of ourselves. So looking to others' opinions. So an example of that is, like, say I'm at my son's school and a mom says, can you make cupcakes for the class? And I am not a baker and I don't but I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is she going to think of me? And she might think I'm a good mom so I say yes. So I am trying to please her, trying to show her I'm a good mom. I'm looking to her to define myself. I'm putting my sort of confidence and self-esteem outside of myself with her. I'm like, so do you think I'm a good mom? And she's like, oh yeah, you are. Because you made it. Instead of me being like, no, you know what? I'm not a baker. And that's, but so we're seeking that approval and validation outside of ourselves. It is, there's so many ways this shows up. And it essentially is, it's just, I like to be kind about it because we are programmed to do this. But it is sort of turning back to ourselves and recognizing that like we need to do sort of what we are going to like, that whatever other people think of us is their business. What do we think of us?
Friend, I'm going to take a little break here and tell you about my new course that is coming out about mommy anger and controlling your anger as a Christian mom. So, is this you? Do you want to be in control of your mommy anger? Are you sick of constantly screaming at your kids or experiencing explosive anger? Do you wish you could be calm and a patient mom like other moms? Do you ever tell yourself, I never had anger issues until I had kids? Well, I'm putting together a course just for you, mama, especially if you are a Christian and you're struggling with this. Okay, in the show notes, there's a link for you to join the wait list, and you'll get on the list and you will be one of the first to know about the course, and you will get access to the lowest price. There will also be an option to add on Voxer support and coaching. So you are actually following through and implementing the things that you're learning. My friend, I'm so excited for this. In the show notes, link to join the waitlist.
Where do you think it stems from? Like that people pleasing? Because it's not something that just happened overnight. And you mentioned a little bit like from our childhood. Is that where it all comes from?
Yeah, I think it comes primarily from two places, is what my research has shown. One, worthiness. There's sort of us believing that there's almost something wrong with us, or, you know, that we aren't feeling like it's this self-concept and self-esteem of like, as little kids, we look outside. This is just our nature. Like, am I okay? Am I loved? Am I accepted, Dad? That's part of our, and if the dad is there, like, yes, you're loved. I don't care if you got a D on your report. I don't care. Then we're going to feel that worthiness. If, like most of us with well-intentioned parents, they're like, no, you know, you need to, like, you're too loud, or you're too quiet, or stop dancing so much, or turn the music. Like, they can be very, you know, banal requests of our parents, but we take them as an inner wound that there's something wrong with us. Then that starts to stem us thinking, having that sort of that, like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. You know, I'm not a good enough woman. I'm not a good enough girl. It's from our family. It's also from society. I mean, we get these messages everywhere. Like, you're a good enough, you know, wife if you are doing all the laundry, whatever the messages are. You're a good enough woman if you can fit into size 12 pants. You're a good enough, you know, all these things that we're looking externally instead of internally. Add to that. So we have worthiness. There's this sort of wound of worthiness, mixed in with this misunderstanding of how the brain works, that we actually think and we're trained to think that our actions impact other people's feelings from a very early age. Like the teacher at school that's like, Susie, you made Johnny cry by taking his crayons. Okay. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a bad person. I made someone. Well, I didn't make him cry by I took his crayons, and he thought a thought that made him feel a certain way that made him cry. Maybe he thought the thought, I'm not done with my picture yet. That snotty little girl just took my crayons. And he feels sad and he starts crying. I influenced it. You know, he also could have thought like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited I get to go out to recess early because now I don't have to color anymore. And he's crying with joy. Like, we don't know. We don't know. Like, we can't make other people feel a certain way, which is something that I know you're teaching, but and that's, you know, this emotional intelligence and this idea that our feelings come from our thoughts, but we very much forget that when we're in sort of our activated state. I'll give you an example because I know a lot of your listeners are moms, and I have, it's so funny. I had an example when my boys were younger. I took all three of them to get ice cream. I thought this would be like, it make them happy, you know, like in my head, like, let's have a happy outing and let's go. And so we went to get ice cream, came home. Later in the day, their grandparents came over, and I had the unique opportunity of like hearing all three of them at different times tell their grandparents about the experience. So one of my sons, like, grandma was like, how was it? And he's like, you know, it was okay. I'm sort of disappointed. They didn't have my flavor. You know, so he was disappointed. So he's feeling the feeling of disappointment. They asked my other son and he's like, I'm pissed. Mom didn't let me get my waffle cone. Like I had to get the regular size. So he's angry. Okay. Third son, oh my God, it was great. I ran into Johnny. And then afterwards we got to play at the park. So I'm there as a mom and I'm like, here's this experience and I want to make you happy. Okay. That's sort of that people pleasing. None of them are happy for the reason that I thought they'd be. Like one is disappointed, one is angry, and one is happy, but it's only because he ran into his friend at the store, nothing to do with the ice cream. Mm-hmm. And it's just this like, oh my gosh, which if you take that to our more adult brain, when we're thinking that our actions or how we show up is going to have people think a certain way about us, it's equally incorrect. Like I know we're not on video right now, but if we were on video, and I'm here and, I put on my blue shirt and I have my earrings on and like, I'm thinking, okay, like Elizabeth's guests are going to think this about me. Someone might see me and be like, oh my gosh, she reminds me of my English teacher and I hate her, like, and feel like just total anger. Someone might see me and be like, she reminds me of my sister and she looks so cool. Like I want to talk to her. Someone might think like like for all the listeners, they're going to have different thoughts. Oh my gosh, her voice is so irritating and they like need to turn it off. Or like her voice is so awesome and energetic. I need to listen to more. Let me find her podcast. Like I can't control that. What I can control is me and how I show up. And so people pleasing, a very long answer to your question, but people pleasing really comes from us and our like seeking approval outside of ourselves, coupled with just this like sort of forgetting of where other people's feelings actually come from.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of it also like comes from childhood, like you said, like phrases that were said to us. And it's like, I still catch myself saying things similar like that to my kids. And then it's like, whoa, like I have to like pause and like be like, hold on, let me rephrase that, because like it will lead to having like that codependency where you're people pleasing. You don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. You don't want to have the other person get mad at you. So you will do what you like, you will enable somebody to be an alcoholic because you are afraid that if you speak the truth or, not enable them, that they will get mad at you and then they will stonewall you, right? Or whatever, like
For
they
sure.
will do something destructive or whatever. And so like it will lead to dysfunctional relationships, to like contribute to dysfunctional relationships and like toxic relationships. It also creates a lot of stress and mental and emotional like struggles, because like even that example with like, okay, you the cupcake example, you give, you say, oh yeah, I'll bake cupcakes, and you're not a baker. It stresses you out. It overwhelms you. Now you're like, feel the pressure to make it really good, and you're stressed, overwhelmed. You don't have some ingredients. You're running to the store. You're not spending that time with your family and your kids connecting. You're all overwhelmed, and it's frustrating because you don't really enjoy baking to begin with. And now all your frustration, you non-intentionally take out on your kids, and you're snapping at them left and right. And they're just literally being kids playing. They're not even like,
oh, and you're like, but wait a minute, I'm making these cupcakes because I'm a good mom.
Yes. So it literally, and then you say hurtful things to your kids that you regret later, and it damages your relationship. You can still repair it, but like, if you continue to stay in the cycle, like you need to, like, I want you moms to recognize like people pleasing. It's not just like, oh, I'm a people pleaser. It's no big deal. Like it is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal in that, like what you're showing, sort of the domino effect of like us, feeling uncomfortable, and then like who then gets the effect of our emotions. I also want to back up to the woman, this, made up woman who initially asked me to make cupcakes, because it disconnects because then we're yelling at our kids. It also disconnects in those very relationships we're trying to people please in. So that woman, let's call her Sally, asks me to make cupcakes, and I put this fake smile on my face and I'm like, sure, okay, Sally, thinking Sally's going to think a certain way about me. And then when I hand the cupcakes in, she's like, how was it? I'm like, it was great. I am being like, this is why I call people pleasers people deceivers. I'm lying. It wasn't great. So now she has this image of me that isn't me. oh, that's Susie. She likes to bake, and I'll ask her next time. And I'll like, and maybe Sally is asking me to bake because she doesn't like to bake. And say I had been honest instead of people pleasing. I'm like, oh, Sally, I am not a baker. Like, I can do other things to help in the classroom, but baking is not my jam. She might have been like, oh, thank goodness it's not mine either. Do you want to go out to coffee and we can think about we could talk about how overwhelming all these parental responsibilities. And then there's the opportunity to get closer. But when I'm lying about who I am, I'm not only not giving the opportunity for this deeper friendship with the other adult, I'm also sending another message back to me that who I am isn't good enough. I need to lie. I need to be untruthful about this being that God has created, that who doesn't like to bake. There's something wrong with that. There isn't something wrong with that. There are people in the so that
And then it also leads to okay, you bake those cookies, you bring them in, and she's like, oh, thank you so much. And then you internally I know for me, I don't even enjoy it. I feel bitter and resentful.
Yeah.
And then when you're bitter and resentful, what I teach moms, that shifts you from your thinking part of the brain. It puts you in the emotional part of the brain. You're a lot more triggered and frustrated by everything. And so again, you're taking it out on your kids and your spouse, not intentionally, but because you are feeling bitter and resentful, in this situation. So it is so important to address these things. Please don't just ignore the fact that oh, I'm a people pleaser. It will create a ton of stress. It will create relationship problems. Unless you recognize this and start breaking the cycle, it's going to also pass on to generations, because that's what you're modeling to your kids. And they see that from you, and they're going to repeat that cycle unless you're the one that stops it. And you're okay, this is not right. I see that this is really destructive in the long run. And get help. Susie's here to help. There's so many books available. There's podcasts available. There's support groups available. You can go to a counselor and therapist, literally get help. You will have to do some internal uncomfortable digging that you probably won't enjoy at first. But honestly, for me, when I was going to therapy, doing that internal work was uncomfortable, but so life-giving in the end. It's
so healing,
so transformational. The amount of transformation that it brings into your life. So many of your actions, decisions, and thoughts come from all these beliefs and things that you believe that you should and shouldn't do. And when you recognize, for me as a Christian, I went to a Christian counselor. She's like, is this even biblical? Or is this something man-made that they said it was biblical, but it's not? And so then you go digging even deeper through that. And so same thing, self-care is selfish. That's a belief that you probably heard from when you're a kid.
Right.
And then from maybe your mom said or your dad said it. And then it puts you into a position where you give too much. You don't replenish yourself. You're constantly giving. And then you're running on empty, you're taking it out on your family. You're so agitated and frustrated with them. And then it hurts relationships. And then it's just this cycle that keeps happening. There's a root, let's get back.
I love it. Yeah. The whole conversation about self-care is selfish is we always have to look at who is served by passing those messages down, because it's not us. So that's another whole discussion. But one thing you said is this bitter and resentful. One of the things I like to say with people pleasing, because we're lying to people, we're being a deceiver. And I'm saying that with compassion, because I was a people pleaser for 30 plus years, but that's BS. So our BS, us BSing someone else, leads to BS, which is bitter and sour. I say, our BS always leads to this bitter and sour and this disconnection and this it's really unhelpful. And I don't want to skate over what you say about the importance of recognizing this in ourselves and looking to change it so that we're not passing it down to the next generation. It shows up in two ways I see with moms and parents. One is what our kids overhear from us. So they might overhear us say, come home and be like, oh my gosh, I need to make cupcakes because I told her that I like to bake. And so they out of one side of our mouth, we might be preaching to our kids the importance of telling the truth. And I don't know how many people get their kids in trouble for lying. And then they witness us lying. And we're like, so let's be a little more, they're modeling that. Or I know once I came home from a book club And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they chose this book. And my son was like, well, why did they, why didn't you speak up and ask for a book? And I was like, oh, well, like, no, I did. Or I think he said like, well, what did you say? And I said, oh, I said I was fine with the book. Like and I'm like, here I am, like modeling this to them. So they just notice us and our modeling. And that is super important. The other part that happens, and I don't know how old listeners' kids are when they're listening, but as your kids continue to grow, they are going to have experiences at school that are uncomfortable. I just was coaching a woman whose daughter went to school. It was middle school, and they had I don't know if they have this around you in Florida, but the Spirit Week, and they were supposed to wear PJs to school. And her daughter came down for breakfast that morning and she wasn't in PJs. And she's like, oh, it's PJ day. And her daughter's like, yeah, I don't want to wear PJs, and she's like, okay. And she went to school. After school, she comes home and she's like, my friends wouldn't let me sit with them at lunch. And I'm sad. And the mom, because she shared this with me, and she's like, because I worked with you, I was able to say like, oh, that must have been hard. That stinks. She said, but the me of like a year ago, the people pleaser me would have been like, oh my gosh, well then like I told you should have worn pajamas, or, like sort of pushing that the other kids' opinions of her daughter are more important than her daughter's own inner guide. That, I mean, okay, her daughter was like, that seems pretty reasonable to not want to wear your pajamas in public. It's like, okay. But if maybe the alternative would have been like, oh my gosh, well, let's make sure that you wear the Spirit Day that you're needing to wear tomorrow. Teaching her daughter something's wrong with her because she listened to her. That's how it starts at that age too. Mm-hmm. It's this, letting our kids have the uncomfortable situation that other people are going to think differently about us. And it's hard. And it doesn't mean anything's wrong with them. Mm-hmm. I guess one thing that I like to share with parents, because this has helped me raise my boys, is I mentioned fruit. Okay. And we talk about fruit, and I love peaches. Like I love peaches. I can't stand bananas. And I will talk about like people being like fruit. And so let's say like you're this like wonderfully juicy, amazing, perfect peach. Okay. Well, Susie's going to love you. Say you're this like wonderfully perfect, wonderful banana. Susie's not going to like you. Does it mean that anything's wrong with the banana? Nothing's wrong with that friggin' banana. Let the banana be the banana. Like there are people out there that love the banana. You show up as your banana self, and you will find people that love bananas. I'm not, that doesn't mean anything's wrong with the banana. Like it's like, I have shared that with my kids, because they're like, you're right. I like strawberries and I don't like peaches, but it doesn't mean anything's wrong with the peach. And so my son actually just the other day, my 22-year-old, he's like, Mom, I was a peach. And I stood in my peachiness. I'm like, you go, son.
That's
like,
so awesome. That is a really good analogy. I've never heard anybody say it like that. I love it. That was a really, really good one.
Love it.
Yeah, my question for you is, do you feel like we can truly recover from people mm-hmm. pleasing? Is that something that is just constantly ongoing, that you like people say there's this phrase like, I'm a recovering people pleaser, but do you feel like anybody can truly recover and just be like, I'm not a people pleaser anymore?
I'm like 100%. I am great evidence that like I just moved, and if I found out the neighbor was like, oh, I don't like that woman because she, I don't know what, like I'd be like, okay, like I have totally recovered. And at the same time, recovery from people pleasing doesn't mean you don't care about what other people think about you. You shorten that list. So one thing I would have people do, I have two things that they could do to sort of start their recovery. One is to cut out a piece of paper, like a 1 inch by 1 inch, or like a little tiny sticky note, and write on that the opinions of the people who matter to you. It is not a full piece of paper, people. So this does not include like the woman at school who has like this, like for me on my list, it's my husband and my sons. Like that's who's on the list. My sister is not on that list because of certain, it's like, now some people might have a best friend on that list, or they might have their mother on that list, but you need to get very clear and conscious and mindful of whose opinions of you matter. So like if I'm starting something new, I might go to my husband and be like, what do you think? Because I value his judgment, and he's a supporter. We want people in there who are supporters of you. So first get really clear about whose opinions matter. That in itself can be very eye-opening. So I'll be like, okay, why? Because we'll sort of start to notice all the other people's opinions who do matter, who we think matter, but they don't matter. The other step is to just start practicing speaking up for yourself when it's difficult. And this is why listening to podcasts like yours, listening to podcasts like mine, being in, like I have a Facebook group and getting support from people is helpful, because this will feel uncomfortable. You'll feel like you're doing something wrong.
Yes.
But one thing, so if they do the little 1-inch piece of paper, I also like people to put themselves on a 24-hour yes diet. So they say that, like, so someone asks them, can you make the cupcakes? And you're like, you know what? I'm working with my coach. I'm saying, yes, I'm on a 24-hour, so I'll get back to you tomorrow. And then Sally's like, well, I need the answer today. And you're like, okay, that's easy. It's a no. But if and we're just trying to slow down our automatic yes, our automatic people pleasing, our automatic like, oh, okay, whatever you want. Like, no. And then tune into yourself. Do I want to bake? Do I want to, even after listening to today, like I know myself, if I listen to this podcast, I might have the thought like, well, I should be doing puzzles like Elizabeth and Susie. Like, I better go get them. It's like, slow down, our puzzles, what you want to be doing. And when we have a 24-hour pause, we can tap into a little more of our inner guidance and our inner just feeling state of, oh, you know what? No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's really good. And I know you have some thoughts about like the value of listening to podcasts and like being in the energy of people that are also working on their mindset and recovering and like learning new ways of doing things and like deconstruction of old ways that are not serving them. Like, what are your thoughts on like just listening to podcasts and, listening to audiobooks, maybe even?
Oh, 100%. I think of our brain like a computer, and it is a computer that is unplugged from the World Wide Web, and it is just running thought patterns that we had it. Like, we have software in there, and sometimes it's time for a software like update down, because a lot of the old programming we have, and it's what we got from our past, or it's what we got from, the people who were around. And I know for me, I surrounded myself with other people pleasers because I felt comfortable in that. And we were like, yes. And my, a good example of my friend, that we would complain about things and feel bitter and sour, but then we'd go right back into being like, oh yeah, I love sitting in the sand. Like, this is like, whatever it is. So stopping and listening to podcasts, reading books, getting some different information into the computer of your brain is, I cannot overemphasize how important that is. It is in different voices. So when you do say, actually, I'm going to take a day to get back to you, or someone texts you real quick, like, can you pick up my son from school? And you're like, oh, actually, that doesn't work for me. Your nervous system is going to react. So it's going to feel like, for me, it feels very tight in my chest. And listening to podcasts or leaning on, the support of a coach is a wonderful time to be like, I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. One thing that comes up,
phrase.
I've done nothing. I will tap, they can't see me, but I will sort of tap on my, my sternum, and just say, I do nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. Like, I can say it's okay. I've done nothing wrong. It's just a really helpful way to try to reprogram and step out that you haven't done anything wrong. Another thing I would leave people with is, I know you do a lot with emotions, and emotions are here to tell us something. The emotion of guilt is one that I thought when I felt guilt, it meant I did something wrong. And I have reprogrammed my brain, and I would invite people today to reprogram their brain that guilt, when we feel the emotion of guilt, it is a signal that we are bumping up against old conditioning. That's it. We are not necessarily doing something wrong, but the feeling of guilt of, oh, I feel guilty because I said no to my neighbor, or, oh, I feel guilty because I didn't make the cupcakes, or, oh, I feel guilty because it is not necessarily like, we women have been trained that guilt means we're bad, do something different, change course. And I would like you to slow that down and recognize that guilt is a sign that you're pushing up against old conditioning, old messaging, maybe like, to just sort of pause and take a breath and be like, whose voice is that telling me I'm doing something wrong? Whose voice is that telling me that like self-care is selfish, or me, doing the puzzle at night instead of folding that load of laundry is bad?
Yeah.
What's happening there?
Yeah. And like you said, like it will be uncomfortable. It will be very uncomfortable. I remember when I first started to set and like implement boundaries and start breaking some of those people-pleasing tendencies, it felt extremely uncomfortable to the point where I felt like I was having an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
Like it is that uncomfortable, and your inner talk at that moment is going to make it or break it. Okay. So like you said, that phrase, even, I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. And having a support system, people you can lean on when you're having those guilty thoughts and uncomfortable feelings is going to be so crucial to help you get through that. Like that support system.
So I like to say, I like to say I'm a personal trainer for people's minds because we think of physical health in this way. Like if you're like, hey, Susie, I want to like build some muscle. You go into the gym and you lift some weights and you have the expectation that it's going to be hard and that it will hurt. And maybe your muscles will be sore. Okay. We don't expect that with our mental health. Like, so our physical health, we're like, yeah, of course, if I'm going to start running, it's going to be hard. But like, if I haven't run for 2 weeks, so same thing with our mental health. If we have not spoken up and been true to ourselves, anything is going to feel uncomfortable. So, another thing I say is I encourage people to like start with the waiter, like you order a taco and you say like, I'd like guacamole, not the salsa. And they bring you the salsa. Start there. Start speaking up to someone who is paid to meet your needs and say, hey, I asked for the guacamole. That's going to feel uncomfortable. Expect that discomfort like you would at the gym. Nothing's gone wrong here. Nothing's gone wrong. And I've done nothing wrong. Or two that I just am like, okay, like we expect the discomfort. This will feel uncomfortable. Nothing's gone wrong. This is part of the growth curve. On the other side of that, dear listeners, is peace and freedom and living a life more in alignment with who you are, this like God-given creature, your uniqueness, your peachness. Like that's what's on the other side of that discomfort.
Yes, I love it. Love this. This was such a great conversation. I feel like we could just keep talking about this and keep adding more and more to it, but we're just we're gonna wrap up. So I want you to tell us, where can our listeners connect with you? What is one thing that you want them to do to like connect with you?
Okay, well, I put together a roadmap of sort of the foundational podcast episodes for listeners if they're working on this kind of stuff or they like what I'm saying, and they can find that at SMB Well, which is my website. So it's Susie Merciel, it's Strength, Mind, Body well.com/Elizabeth, your name.
Oh, thank you.
smbwell.com/Elizabeth. And really, like, if they could like hop on Instagram and say hi to me or tell me, a big takeaway. I truly have dedicated my life to helping women feel better and living a life they love, because I lived a life I didn't love for so many years. And there is another option. And when you have supportive people in your ear, like they do today with us and sort of in the future, that makes it easier. And I just want people to consistently be able to see that lightness on the horizon, that they are here to enjoy life. They were made for a reason. They are not here for that drudgery and that ick and that like just stare down at the treadmill. They are here to feel joy. So I'd love to help them with that.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I had so much fun talking to Susie. And if you are a people pleaser, you should go check out her website and her podcast, and you will find it super, super helpful. Everything is linked in the show notes. And Mama, don't forget to sign up for the waitlist for the new course that is coming out in May of 2023, all about managing anger as a Christian mom. All right, my friend, I will see you next time. Hey mama, do you find yourself snapping over the smallest things, like spilled milk or constant whining, then feeling horrible afterwards? If you're tired of losing your temper and you want to show up with more patience, I have something for you. It's a free training called How to Be More Patient with Your Kids so you're not screaming over spilled milk. Inside, I'll walk you through 10 simple things you can start doing today to become a calmer, more Christ-like mom, even on the hard days. To get it for free, just leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and send a screenshot to hello@emotionallyhealthylegacy.com. Or if you'd rather skip the wait, you can grab it right now for just $27. The link is in the show notes. Let's help you become the peaceful, patient mom your kids need.